Back in 2017, I tried starting my own tiles the same way. Like the Dwarven Forge ones are really expensive. A lot of the other companies back in 2017 weren't doing much. We didn't have a lot of like the plastic ones. It was like cardboard tiles or super expensive Dwarvenite kind of tiles. So I tried pottery clay, which is great. It stands up really well. This was the first draft. I forgot that clay shrinks, so my 1 inch by 1 inch grid isn't exactly 1 inch by 1 inch. So that's something that definitely second draft somewhat fixed. All right, phase two, I used cookie cutters to cut these out that were slightly bigger than that normal like 2 inch by 2 inch. It was like 2.125 inches, so it would shrink down to be about the right size. I base coated these in black acrylic and then went over them with a gray acrylic. I liked how these turned out, but I thought they could be better. So I tried with some actual pottery glazes. The next phase, I used a glaze that is known as Blue Rutile. I didn't put it on too thick. The thicker you put it on, the more blue it gets. They kind of changed the recipe in the last couple of years. So we have this weird kind of like brown that shows up in there now. But I liked how these turned out. Kind of gives like that flooded sewer kind of effect for a tile. Um, so those are pretty cool. I made a lot of these. I think I ended up making total like 170 tiles, and then I think like two or three broke in the process, but such is life. And again, even using the cookie cutter, they're not going to be like exact, but I like how they have like the different like imperfections and things, and you can very faintly in some of them see like the canvas texture. So that's technically I think phase three. One of the other glazes I really like, I believe this is the Deep Sienna Speckle. Both of these are, I think, Amico professional like pottery glazes for like the Blue Rutile and the Deep Sienna here, and I think also the potentially the Temaku as well. But what I like is these have they definitely pop against the other tiles that I make. So if we have both like the kind of the bluish green and the red, they go well kind of to accent for each other. Um, but I would make like hallways with these, kind of the same way you would set out like a like Dwarven Forge thing. But yeah, this is technically then phase four. As you can see, the highly reflective, which also is kind of an issue depending on where you're playing. If you got really bright lights, it's going to only be broken up by like the figures that you put on them. And for our last group, these are the Temaku that I was mentioning. In college, when I was doing a lot of my pottery, I would put Temaku on like everything. But it has like nice browns, some golds, a lot of like kind of those light speckles in there as well. What I love is the fact that this one is a little bit easier to take video and pictures of because it's not as reflective. Um, and there is still enough variation that it's easier to kind of tell them apart. But yeah, these were really nice. Again, I use these a lot now just as accents or because they are like actual pottery clay. They're heavy, so if you have maps that are kind of rolling up, like sometimes they do, it's a nice way of just holding down things or having them as like place markers or this is where the dungeon starts and then start drawing from there. And just as an example as how I would kind of like use these tiles, I can set them up on like a playmat or battle mat or whatnot and just build rooms organically like this. Or if you take that away, move the hallway here, you can slide things around. If you have like a moving dungeon, this is kind of a fun way of doing things too. The last piece of ceramic terrain that I tried to build, I made this kind of cave here in three pieces because I knew if I tried to do this as one, it would probably crack. Again, it's that nice pottery clay. And even though I just like kind of made a cut on it, where I wanted to make those the sections, clay is a very fickle medium, and they were at different places in the kiln. So as you can see, the glaze here looks a little bit different than the on each piece. But again, even with like miniatures on there, just having that like loose interpretation of the grid is nice. But yeah, I had a lot of fun kind of experimenting around with that. But yeah, these are started back in June 2020. What was it? 2017. So yeah, good times. I'm happy I finally got to use this piece. I think I've used it like twice now. But it's nice just having something other than just like the Dwarven Forge tiles or like cardboard tokens or things like that, or like the neoprene like battle mats. Just to have some other visual representation. Like if you wanted pillars in this room, honestly, doing something like this and go, oh yeah, those are spots that are taken up by pillars. Totally an option. But yeah, have fun out there, play more games, make some cool stuff. And I guess actually the last thing I would add on to this, the clay is very heavy. So if you're playing at stores or things like that, it's a lot of extra weight to be carrying around. I would only take like 4 or 5 of these little pieces around just to hold down the corners of maps. But yeah, there's a lot of them.